Dudley Tyng was born in 1825. With his father serving as a pastor, he grew up looking and imparting the qualities of a minister for Christ. He served as an assistant to his father in Philadelphia, the Episcopal Church. He was elected as a pastor after the retirement of his father in 1854. Everyone was amazed by his enthusiasm and his devotion to the Lord, as he was just 29 when he took up the duty. All went well and good until when, in 1856, he started preaching against slavery. His strong doctrinal preaching and his anti-slavery rhetoric were popular for some and angered others, resulting in his resignation from an Episcopal congregation that he pastored. Following this, he and his followers started an independent church, the Church of the Covenant. But Tyng's ministry wasn't just within the four walls of the church. As a dedicated evangelist, he was conducting various revival services. He also became part of the YMCA and conducted various crusades with them, which in turn led into the revival period known as the Work of God in Philadelphia. On one such occasion, on March 30, 1858, Ting gave a sermon at the YMCA meeting of over 5,000 men on Exodus 10:11. Go now ye that are men and serve the Lord. This preaching of his converted over 1,000 men listening in the crowd. During this sermon, Ting is said to have declared, I would rather that this arm was amputated at the trunk than that I should come short of my duty to you in delivering God's message. Prophetically and tragically, on Tuesday, April 13, 1858, shortly after that compelling message, Ting had gone back to his farm to rest, and when he was walking through his barn, then he came upon a mule that was working a machine shelling corn. He reached out to pet the mule, but unfortunately, when he did this, his shirt sleeve became caught in the cogs of the machine and quickly and severely injuring his arm to the point of its detachment. There wasn't anyone around to hear him call out, and he became weaker and weaker as he lay on the barn floor. It was hours later when someone discovered the dying preacher. To the dismay of his family and friends, his wound became infected, and he did pass away a few days later. His last words to those around him were, "Tell them to stand up for Jesus." He was only 33 years old when this incident took place. George Duffield Jr., the son of a well-known Presbyterian minister, was educated at Yale University and Union Theological Seminary. In 1858, George was an associate of Dudley Tyng and used to assist him in all the meetings. He was deeply touched by the incident that took place, and when he came to know the last words of Ting with a heavy heart, Duffield returned home, where he sat down and wrote the hymn as a tribute to his friend and mentor. At a memorial service for Ting, Duffield gave a sermon based on Ephesians chapter 6 verse 14. Stand firm, bearing the whole armor of God, and ended it by reciting the new hymn he had written as a tribute. The hymn was first brought into public knowledge with leaflets printed by the superintendent of the local Christian school containing the words of the hymn. One of these leaflets ended up being published in a Baptist newspaper, and Stand Up for Jesus was published in the Church Psalmist in 1859. After the first publication, the hymn was popular and was sung by both the Union and Confederate soldiers in the American Civil War. The hymn also became popular among British revivalists and within public schools in England. As a result of the images of a Christian militarism in the hymn, some people object to the hymn and some people do not stand to sing it. The hymn was also excluded from a more politically correct volume of the Presbyterian Hymnal published in June 1990 in order not to offend handicapped people. Several melodies have been written for Stand Up for Jesus. The one used in most hymnals was written by George Webb, founder of the Boston Academy of Music. He wrote the tune in 1837, originally for "'Tis Dawn, the Lark is Singing", a song in secular music, but today being widely used for Stand Up for Jesus and motivating many. Stand Up for Jesus by George Duffield Jr. Thank you. Stay tuned. God bless.